How are you?
Good afternoon, everybody. The last time I was here, we talked a lot about the idea of wealth with purpose, and I'm very conscious that in a business forum, most of you are here to talk about business issues and learn about how you can run your businesses more effectively, how you can create more revenue, and I completely understand that. But sitting behind the idea of being in business is our personal life, our family life, and ultimately our purpose, the reason we're doing this. Why are we in business? What are our motivations? So what I plan to share with you this afternoon in my topic, Winning the Money Game, is just some insights into nearly 20 years of advising predominantly senior business people, senior executives, and private business owners. So when I present this information this afternoon, it's coming from a position of having had many years of conversations with people where we're dealing with this conflict around what do I do in my business in order to be successful, in order to live a better life outside of work. Make sense? So that's going to be the focus for this afternoon. Now, when we look at this, over the years we've, as I say, done a lot of work with successful people. And there's one question that predominantly is asked when they come to see us for the first time. And there's always going to be some sort of motivating thread. There's going to be a question that's asked. And if I condensed all of those different questions into one motivator, it's the question, am I going to be okay? Is my family going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to have enough money to retire on? Am I going to be able to sell my business successfully, and so forth? So my real objective this afternoon is to get you thinking and to get you asking questions. I acknowledge that many of you will already have relationships with financial advisors, and I'd hazard to guess that many of those relationships with financial advisors will be product-based. So as you are going through the workshop this afternoon, I really want you to be thinking about, in the context of your lives, what are some of the questions that you should be asking yourself at your current stage to make sure you've got the answer to that very important question of, am I going to be okay? Okay, so looking at the successful wealth characteristics of people, the first is they want to make sure that they're making smart decisions with their money. I think there's a general acceptance that being in business is kind of, well, I'm not going to say kind of hard, but it's certainly not easy, right? Anyone in a business where it's just easy every day? Hands up. Anyone in a business where, you know, most days there are significant challenges? Yeah, okay, I get it. So it's just too damn hard to be doing dumb stuff with your money, right? The second one is this idea of enhancing and optimising your position. I'm going to give 3 case studies later in the session, some of which won't be relevant to you specifically, but I think I will touch on issues that you will have faced at some point during your journey through the system. Little things like optimising, you know, just having... I've seen situations where people have come to us late in life for retirement planning advice, and they might be paying $20,000, $25,000 a year in life insurance cost. Sound like a fair amount to be paying in life insurance? And they don't need it, but it's just been on a regular debit, so they keep paying it. Now, of course, the flip side is probably worse. Those who are younger and they come to us and they've got none, and they probably should have some. But optimising your financial position is really, really important. The third, protecting and providing opportunities, the best opportunities you possibly can for the people you care about. And the fourth, is protecting wealth from unforeseen events. Now, A lot of what I'm talking about here is something that a financial advisor can't help you with, right? A lot of this can only happen in collaboration between a good financial advisor, a good accounting advisor, tax and accounting advisor, and a good lawyer. But the number of times we have seen situations, and one of my case studies this afternoon will address this directly, where structuring hasn't been done right. Can anyone relate to this question? Early on in your business, money was tight, and there was a transaction that needed to be done, and you sort of acted as your own lawyer. You sort of said, I think I can muddle my way through that. Anyone done that? I have, if it's any consolation, I certainly have. And my motivation as I dig into that later is to save the cost of the lawyer or save the cost of the accountant on the way through. And it's only when you get further down the track that you either get away with it or you pay the price. So that number 4, protecting your wealth from unforeseen events, certainly relates to Andrew's presentation in respect of your general insurance. It certainly relates to the work that my colleague Serena West does in terms of family protection and so forth, and also preventing legal challenges. Making sure that when assets are purchased, they are purchased in entities that cannot be attacked. So the number of times I have seen situations where a family trust is established, a business is operated out of a family trust, and at some point down the track, at some point during the journey, the property that the business operates out of is also purchased within that same trust. Now, often the reason for that will be, well, that's where the money was. I get that, but if there's a legal claim against the business, then that real asset is at risk. And they're the sorts of things I want you to be thinking about in advance so that you don't have to clean up messes at the other end. And the 5th, and probably the most important, I think, that we see with successful people is that they get to a point in their career where they've achieved that position. I think Maslow called it that position of self-actualisation, looked after the basic needs, looked after most of the middle order needs of the family's okay and so forth. Now it's about how can I help the world be a better place. So that's all well and good, but I understand that this is the challenge that you face every single day, and I face it too. This notion of how do we balance out our personal needs for health and fitness and mental well-being and friendship versus the needs of family versus the incredibly significant demands of running a successful business. So I'm just going to share with you now a little journey, a little model that I didn't make up. Anyone seen this before? Most people, I think, will relate to this at some level. Who can remember back to that time when they were absolutely new business owners? That sense of, what was that sense you had when you were absolutely new business owners and your mind was in the space of what could be? What's the feeling? Absolutely, it's excitement. I'm having a crack at this. I'm my own boss for the first time. Then, not long after that, there's a sense of, oh my God, what have I done? I remember my wife told me this sometime later. She remembers the first day that I went to work in Capital Partners, 1st of July 1999. I backed out the driveway in my little white Camry, and that was it. I was the CEO of a little white Camry and a rented office in a mate's office and a notebook computer, and that was Capital Partners. Thankfully it worked. I got through the anxious part. Then you get a bit more confident. You talk to David, you win a few bids, you get some stuff going, and all of a sudden you're winning a few. And then once you get that confidence, the confidence gives you the opportunity to start investing in your business. That's where you start hiring people, you're starting investing in technology, and things are going much, much better. Once you get through what we call that first brick wall. Anyone in that first brick wall right now? No, I didn't think so. Once you get through that first brick wall, there's a really lovely period where you actually start to make some money. That's a really delightful curve that you go through, that sense of you know, you're winning business and everything's going well. But this is a simplified version because many people hit multiple brick walls along the way. You know, right now, a significant brick wall for us was after the GFC. You know, most businesses in Western Australia, particularly those relating to mining and building and construction and so forth, GFC didn't really impact you. It's only been in more recent years with the mining construction downturn that it's really started to bite. But back then, for us, things were really, really tight. That was a brick wall, and you're in that stressful situation of, do I reduce my staff? Can I put my prices up to cover off on some of this? Do I talk to the landlord? All of these little balancing items that you have to go through every single day just to make sure you're keeping your head above water. But then you go, one of the case studies we're going to look at is what can happen in this period here, and I want you to be really aware of it in terms of your personal wealth management. As you move through your payback, all of a sudden, you get to be running quite a big business. And it's not the way it felt. Anyone relate to this? It's not with 16 people, David? It's not quite the way it felt when you set out here. Often you're not fulfilling all of the reasons why you started the business, because now you're a CEO, now you're a manager, now you're dealing with HR issues. Anyone relate to that? Yep. Now, if you're going to go on this journey, who wants it to be worthwhile? Personally? Exactly. That's where personal wealth management comes in. That's where personal financial advice comes in. And that's why I think it's really, really important, even though this is not a topic that's core and central to you running better businesses today, I think it is core and central to you living better lives along the way and being successful at the end. Someone in the notes in the pre-work for this meeting said it'd be really nice to know how much is enough to retire on. If time permitting, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that this afternoon, just to give you a bit of a heads up. This is the goal. When you get through that second brick wall and it's tough and you're disillusioned or you're going through a downturn because of the mining boom, it's got to be worthwhile for you, because we know that business owners get paid last. Everyone on the payroll gets paid before you do. So you need to make sure that it works for you and that you don't end up in this situation here on the right-hand side where you've done all of that work and your business ends up in decline. So what I want to do is just take you to your tables, and I want to imagine that there are effectively 3 stages in this journey. There's formative, there's growth, and then there's maturity. So formative, growth, and maturity. And what I'd like to do at your tables is just to brainstorm some of the issues that you think people face in those three phases. So formative, growth, and maturity. Off you go. So the personal financial issues people face in those 3 phases. So workshop it, have a chat about it. Compare notes. Okay, can I ask you to nominate a sort of table spokesperson? Is that all right? There's a prize. There's a prize for being the table spokesman. So what I'd like to do, starting with this table up the back here, is if you could just quickly work us through the issues, personal financial issues that you think you face as business owners during that formative, then growth, and then maturity phase. Now, you might not have experienced them all, but I'm sure you'll have insights. We'll quickly run around the table. So we've got a table captain.
Yeah, we started with the formative, and Morena was sort of talking about starting up a business with a couple of people, and it's easy to sort of manage a couple of people. Then we got on to getting into the growth period, and I sort of had a discussion about when the frustrations and the and looking at the payback, and when you're taking on additional staff, and I took over from my father. And the great thing is I could sit there and say to him, how the hell did you get through all of this? And I'm just going through and repeating history, or trying to improve on history. And then you get to maturity and starting to look at then go on that trajectory that you were talking about with advanced growth, and that's probably where we're about right now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a copy of my book. Hope you enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
So, who else wants to be a table captain now? Anyone else? Okay, this table. Anything to add to that in terms of the personal issues you face in the personal financial issues you face in the formative, growth, and maturity stages? I might get you to stand up just so everyone can hear. That'll be great.
Just with regard to the finance side of things, at the formative stage, it's very difficult getting any bank loans and things like that because there's no track record. Tended to be younger, didn't have any real assets anyway, and so had to rely on family and parents and things like that to try to scrounge anything. And so that was quite hard. The good thing is when I first started, I had clients who were willing to back me, so I was given a free office for several months, and they paid very promptly, like every week, and so we got the money coming in, and so that was the formative stage. And then as the company started to grow, you looked at you wanted to think we've got a good business here, so you don't want it to go bust, and so we made sure we put money into the bank and grew up. Very rigorous cash flow forecasts each week and each month and each year, and we made sure we put money in the bank. And it's a bit of a guess as to how much money we have to put in the bank, but that's what we have to do. To do that at maturity stage, what we've got now is we like to maintain a bank balance of a minimum certain amount. In our case at the moment, we've got 1.2 million in the bank, which we think is reasonable for our size business, and we don't like to go below that. And that just sits in the bank. It's probably been a little bit conservative, but it makes us feel a bit safe. So that's where we are.
Good. Thank you. Okay, anyone got anything else to add? This table? Yeah. I'll get you stand up and so everyone can hear.
Formative, we said, where's the money coming from? I mean, who are your customers? Who's going to be paying you? And the worries with that, with the growth. How do you fund the expansion, with people issues, HR, and also then maybe like personal issues like spending more time away from your family, more time in the business. And we didn't quite get to maturity.
Right, well done. All right, talk net. Okay, anyone else? Yeah, go for it. Up you get.
I think in the formative years, the hard bit is trying to make sure you got some money coming in to make sure that you can live, and finding out where that next dollar's coming in, and balancing out between yourself and your suppliers. In that growth period, really that balance of how much do you keep for yourself and how much do you put back into the business.
Absolutely.
You know, seeing our business grow, we continue to put more and more into the business, and we got to end up taking out a little bit for ourselves in the end. And then you hit that kind of next stage, and it's how much more do you want to invest to grow? And what are you going to sacrifice to get to that next level? So,
is that about where you're at the moment?
yeah, we're kind of around brick wall number 2.
Yeah, okay, got it. All right, thanks for sharing. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll bring this all together in a minute. Anything from here? Glenn?
In the formative and growth and maturity, it's been cash flow, but really in the early parts about cash flow, where money's going back into the business and those sorts of things, and you've got to make sure that you've got enough to start up and get going. In the growth side, when you start to get a return in that, it's how you invest that and making sure that you're getting returns on those sorts of things. And then in maturity, things like about succession planning and those sorts of things come into that.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. We'll touch on a couple of those. Last one. Anyone got anything?
Yeah, we should come back to the formative. Obviously, cash flow.
I'll get you to stand up so everyone can hear.
Yeah, obviously, as everyone else has ebbed on, the cash flow is very important. I know early on we had quite a bit of work and projects thrown our way, and it sounds crazy, but we actually politely declined on some things because we knew we couldn't deliver to the standard that we wanted to continue with, and I think that actually paid off in the long run. That customers did respect what we could produce, and it was what they expected. So don't sell yourself short on trying to flood the market with something that you can't actually handle.
Okay. Thank you all. some real commonality there, isn't it? You know, that whole concept of during the formative days is pretty tough, cash flow's tight, and who suffers most? Probably the family of the business owners. And then during the good times, things are much better, and it's a matter then of saying, well, hang on a minute, I've got a pretty decent life here. How much do I really want to reinvest in the business to keep it growing? And then, of course, in the second brick wall and on the way through to either advanced growth, plateau or decline, you have these significant challenges around succession. And succession just doesn't happen like, okay, well, it's time for me to get out, therefore, oh, Jacqueline, would you like to become the owner of the business now? It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So what I want to bring together with this is in a couple of case studies very quickly is these issues we face around the decisions people make. The biggest mistake we see in business of any type, in the professions or in private business, is a confusion between money that is the business's money and money that is your money. Now, if you're in an established family business and you're coming through as a second generation person, less of an issue. But if you're the founder, when you get to that point of payback, one of the big issues that we see is this sense of delayed gratification, where it's been so hard, it's been so challenging for so long that all of a sudden there's some money in the bank. All of a sudden the accountant's saying, you know what, you can take some dividends, that there is some pent-up demand within the family to do stuff and enjoy stuff and renovate the house and do all of those sort of things. And that's one of the biggest challenges we see, is making sure you keep those demands of the business and the demands of the personal side in check. But if I bring this all back into 5 key steps that you can undertake to actually take control of this situation, is to have some clear goals and some clear priorities around what you want for you. In my last session, I asked the question, who's got a business plan? Everyone in the room had a business plan. I asked the question, who thinks their financial stuff's pretty well in order when it comes to the business? Just about everyone in the room said, it's pretty good. There's stuff we could improve on, but it's okay. What I want you to be thinking about as you leave today and as you sort of digest this information over the next week or so is, what more could you be doing to make sure that your personal goals, not your business goals, your personal financial goals are clearly documented, and that there is a conversation that's been had with your partner in life to make sure you are absolutely crystal clear on why you are doing what you are doing in the business context. Why are you working so hard within the business context? Then that creates the opportunity for you to have a conversation with a financial professional, your accountant or your financial advisor, in terms of how do we make that happen? We're doing well over in the business here, but how do we make it happen for us to be doing really well in our personal lives? The next is sound cash flow management. The next is a clear savings strategy for you. The next is to have a clear protection strategy in place for your family and for your business, and to make sure that your succession and estate planning is looked after. Let me run through very quickly these case studies. How long have I got? Minutes?
Yeah, about 8.
8, perfect. Awesome. Case study 1 is called the cash flow conundrum. And the subject matter, or the personality behind this little case study, is me. So I'm going to share with you a personal story, and I'm going to share with you how we dealt with it. And basically our business started in 1999 from scratch. So there was 0 customers and there was nothing there really. So we sort of gradually started the process of building customer by customer by customer. So it won't be a surprise to you who have done that for about the first 4 years you're living off your personal capital. Anyone been there? Yep, thought so. So you're living off your personal capital, and then you start getting established, you get into that growth. We were really going well in 2006, 2007, and I don't mind sharing with you that there was some pent-up demand for consumption. New cars and so forth. So that's what we looked like back then. I showed that to Rowan, my wife. She said, oh, that's nice. Who's that? And I said, oh, that's you a few years ago, darling. She hasn't really given me the full debrief on that. Anyway, so what we had to do was basically fundamentally alter our living because we cut our salaries to 0. when that happened, as there were 3 business owners by then, and we literally cut our not insignificant incomes to 0 in order to preserve capital, to your point, because we didn't know how bad financial markets were going to get. We didn't know what was going to happen. So the first thing we did was cut up our credit cards. Now, credit cards, if you use them, and I'm sure if you use them, you're fully in control of them, and they're great for business expenses and those sorts of things, you need to understand the psychology behind a credit card. The psychology behind a credit card is to have you spend money on things you can't afford in order to have a negative balance at the end of the month that the bank can then charge you 17% interest on. It's not so that you can get frequent flyer points and pay off your account balance at the end of the month. Because if you get the frequent flyer points and pay off your account balance at the end of the month, you're a terrible customer for the bank, right? So when it's only during payback. I'm not suggesting anyone in the room here is profligate with their money and they can't handle credit cards, don't get me wrong. But when you're in that payback period, just be really, really careful of how you're using credit and how you're using credit cards. We bought a house recently, we had to buy some furniture, so I got my Amex bill, had put some stuff on, because we've got one now, put some stuff on the credit card, and the outstanding balance I had to pay was like, the full balance was $5,400 or $104. The minimum payment was $104. If I paid the minimum payment of $104, how long do you think it would take to pay off the entire balance of that loan? 40 years? Anyone else? 24? Anyone else? So who said 70? Thank you. 72 years, and on a $5,400 balance, $36,000 in interest. Now that is the business model behind credit cards. So what we did was we said, right, income's coming in, we're going to keep putting some money into superannuation. Everything that comes into our household, this is subsequently, everything that comes into the household is going into the mortgage offset account. And from the mortgage offset account, we'll basically take a monthly transfer to a cost of living account that we live off with debit cards. This is incredibly powerful, because if you've got everything else right in your financial plan, and you've got that one transfer each month coming from account A to an everyday living account, there is only one account you need to focus on to ensure that your financial plan is on track. And one of 2 things is going to happen. You're either going to run out of money before the end of the month, or at the end of the there's going to be, there's going to be no money left and you've still got month. All right? So it's a really powerful way to simplify your situation so that you absolutely know you are not spending more than you should. Now, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I know on the population statistics of business owners, there's about half of the people in the room, minimum, who would report in a completely confidential study that they don't have full control of their cash flow, personal cash flow. So I'm not going to ask the question because I don't want to embarrass anyone, but this is a really fantastic way of setting yourselves up to make sure that you absolutely stay on track of your cash flow. Case study 2 is a savings slam dunk, and this is, I've accentuated this to make the point, but this is all about using the power of compound interest to be on top of things. Now, who in the room is relying on their business almost in its entirety to be their superannuation and retirement fund? So most people got stuff going on as well. That's awesome. This is the power of starting early. So scenario A is basically a young person, and at about the age of 30, they've got a successful business, they're in payback, and don't focus on the number that I've chosen, but they put the maximum deductible contribution into superannuation. So from next year, that's 25 grand. So basically, they put 25 grand a year into super, and by the time they're 65, at about retirement, they've accumulated over $2.5 million using a relatively benign, achievable reference rate of expected return. Person 2 basically says, well, you know what? I'm going to just take my 9.5 percent superannuation guarantee contribution, and that's all I'm going to do all the way through to retirement. And they finish up with under 1.5 between the age of 30 and the age of 65. Then this person, the second person, the red guy, has a wake-up call midlife and says, well, hang on a minute, I'm not going to have enough money to get to where I want to get to. I really need a whole lot more than that 1.5. Now I'm going to close the gap. And that is the impact of having to close that gap. So person A, over the course of that age 30 to age 65, saves $900,000. Person B saves $600,000, and in order to close the gap, they have to save an additional $459,000 to close that gap. Now the difference is compound interest. The difference is the power of having that money in. Now I don't care whether it's superannuation or anything else. It's about having some money somewhere doing something. It just happens that superannuation is in this country is an incredibly tax-effective place to be doing it. So, and if you haven't done it, encourage your children to do it. Seriously, because that's the sort of impact that it can have. So that's the power of compounding. The third one is a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to take you through it, and this is really the subject matter area of my colleague Serena West, but I'm going to steal it for today. What we've got here is Successful Business Proprietary Limited. Ronnie started the business. Ronnie's 57. Currently has a 50% ownership of the business. Ronnie is in payback time. Advanced Growth is established in their personal life, is married to Ivana, and Ivana quite likes the money. And the only issue with this partnership is there is always pressure to take dividends out of the business. All right, there's at the end of the month, if there's money in the bank, it's, well, I think we should be taking a dividend. John and Sarah, both younger, 39 and 49, both married, stable relationships. They are wanting to build the business. They are wanting to keep money in the business in order to grow the business. So there's this ongoing tension, which they manage, but there's ongoing tension between the partners of keep money in the business versus take the money out of the business and spend it. Anyone relate to that? Anyone ever seen that before? Because it's pretty common. Now, Ronnie's died. And guess who the new business partner is? The new business partner is Ivana. And Ivana is very focused on getting money out of the business and is very focused on having them buy her out. And if she can't have them buy her out, she is going to be as difficult as she possibly can be. Because remember, Ivana's already quite well established financially. Ronnie had left her in a good position. Likes the money though, and wouldn't mind a bit more of it. So what do we do in a situation like this? Because this is all too common. What most business owners will do is say, okay, what's the value of the business? And they'll do something relatively simple, like put a life insurance policy in place. So John takes a life insurance policy for $1.75 million. Sarah takes a policy for 1.75, and Ronnie takes a policy for 3.5. Now that's not necessarily an insignificant undertaking at the age of 57, because I can tell you that at the age of 52, my insurance premiums are starting to go like that. So I'm really conscious on making sure I've got the right amount with the right insurer, and Serena obviously helps me with that. But let's say this scenario took place and that Ronnie had that cover. Going back a step, I'm done. I'm nearly done. So let's say that policy was in place. Now Ivana has got $3.5 million in life insurance proceeds. Do you think Ivana would be happy with that? You'd reckon she probably would. She'd probably prefer to have a husband around, but you know, she's got the $3.5 million in life insurance proceeds. But what's she also still got? she's also still got the shares in the company because they only did half a job. What the solution really needed to be is the insurance proceeds on the partners, but then a very, very clear agreement drafted by someone like HHG that clearly states that in the event that this key person has passed away, and in the event that this $3.5 million has been paid to the beneficiaries, then a sale transaction is deemed to have taken place and that those shares will automatically pass. Now, that's that case study, and I know it won't necessarily be relevant for all of you, but I also want you just to consider, if you're in a family business where it's husband and wife as the key people in a business, if you are in a situation where you're in a fledgling startup or you're really working hard or you've taken on a lot of loans, to make sure the family is protected in the event that one of those key people is taken out, is unable to continue to work either through disablement or through death or something else, that the family is not left in a dire pickle because there's not some sort of plan in place. So let me quickly summarise. All I want to do is overlay what we as wealth managers, as financial advisors do to help people on this journey. In the Wealth Essentials stage, what we call the formative stages, we're really focused on helping people get organised, get their cash flow right, get their insurances right, get their agreements right, working with their lawyer to make sure things are structured properly. During that good times, it's about taking the opportunity and really making the most of it. If you've got positive cash flow, do something with it that's clearly aligned to your goals. And then in the transition and retirement phase, it's be really, really clear about what retirement looks like and how you want to really maximise the value of the business for the future. So folks, I hope you found that interesting. That's me, done for the day. And I think hopefully all of that will help you behave in a way that helps you mirror the 5 wealth characteristics of successful people. Thank you.